What's up? Jack here with devslopes.com, and we're back wrapping up our series in our API course on authentication. So we laid the groundwork in the last video. In this video, we're going to finish it out and then hook things up, and I'm going to show you how to use it with Postman. Alright. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and add this auth middleware file that I was telling you about. So we'll right click and say new file, and we'll call it authmiddleware.js. Now in this auth middleware file, we're going to go ahead and do our imports here at the top. We're going to import JWT from JSON web token, and we're going to import express JWT from express-jwt. And then we're going to set a couple of constants here. We're going to set const, and I'm going to make these all caps so that we know that they're constants. We're going to set token time equal to 60 times 60 times 24 times 30. And if you're wondering what in the crap does that do, well, it's 30 days. So that's basically going to be our token time. That's how long our tokens are going to be good for, is 30 days. You can set this for whatever you want to. If you set it for a shorter amount of time, it just means that people are going to have to log in and get re-authenticated more often. Alright, and we also need a secret. And your secret can be whatever you want it to be, but you need to guard this secret, because if you don't, people could decode your tokens and get your information. So we're going to set ours to something funky here. Alright. And then I'm going to set authenticate equal to express JWT. It's not express, it's express dot express JWT. And then we're going to specify our secret here. Alright, and then we're going to define generate access token here, and we're going to pass in request, response, and next. So when you see this next next in here, that is a sign that this is middleware. So in our generate access token, we're going to say request.token equals request.token or nothing. So basically we're either so here we're going to say request.token equal to request.token, or we're going to set it to an empty object. And then we need to say request.token equal JWT.sign, and then we'll say ID is request.user.id, and then we need to put our secret in here. I know this syntax looks a little bit funky, but I got this straight out of Passport, so this is how it works. And then we need to pass in expires in, and then put token time here, and again that's 30 days. Alright, and we'll close that off. So after we roll through this method here, we're going to call next. Another sign that this is middleware, because we're going to pass things through this, and then once this is done, it's going to call next and let it go on to the handlers. Okay, the next thing, actually the last thing we need to specify is respond. So we got a fat arrow function here again. And we're going to say res.status. And we're going to pass in 200, which is okay, .json. And we're going to say user rec.user.username. And token is request.token. And we'll close that off. And the only thing we've got to do now is we've got to export. So we're going to say module.exports equals, and then we're going to say authenticate, generate access token, and respond. And obviously this is ES6 because we're not having to do something like this. Makes a lot cleaner syntax. So this is our auth middleware. We basically got these three things here. We've got authenticate, we've got generate access token, and we've got respond. And then we're exporting these three out so we can use them elsewhere. So now let's turn back to our account controller here, and we need to fill out our code for this. Now we've already got a start, but we need to put our routes in here. And they're all going to start with /v1 like normal. But instead of food truck, they're going to be /account. So this first one, we're going to do register first. So we'll do api.post, and then we'll pass in register. We got a request and a response like normal. Fat arrow function. And then inside here, we're just going to say account, which is our model up here, .register, and then new account. And then we're going to pass in username is request.body.email. And then a comma here, and we're going to say request.body.password. And then we've got a function here with either an error or an account. And we need to deal with the error if there's an error. And we'll just say return. Actually, we'll just do res.send error just like we have been. Alright. And then if we succeed, we need to call passport.authenticate. And then we'll pass in here local. And then session. And we're going to set that to false because we're going to be using mobile clients. We're not going to be using sessions. Alright. And then we'll come back down here and close that off. And then we've got to put another call here. And like I said, I know this looks a little weird, but if you look at it here, we've just got a request and response, and then we've got another fat arrow function here. So we're just going to say res.status 200 send, and then we're going to pass in successfully created new account. And then we need to close that off. And I've got an extra parenthesis here that I don't need. Let me double check my code here and make sure I've got everything correct. Okay, so everything looks good there. I had some indentation problems as well. Anyway, we'll go ahead and move on. We'll catch it if I did made a typo or something, we'll catch it here. All right, so we've got our register call here now. And now we need a login. And that's going to be V1 account login. And it's going to be a post call at /login. And then here we need to pass in passport.authenticate. And then we need to do the same thing that we did up here with a couple of exceptions. First, we need to say local. And then we need to do session is false. And we need scope here. And that's just an empty array. And then we come down here, and outside of these this curly brace and parenthesis here, we put a comma, and we need to put generate access token and then respond. So here, if we log in, if we're successful, we're going to generate an access token, and then we're going to respond and send the token back. So that's all there is to that. Now there's one other route I'm going to put in here. Actually, there's two. We need to log out. So we'll say V1 account log out. And it's just going to be a get. And the URL is just going to be log out. And then we'll pass in authenticate here. And then request and a response with a fat arrow function as usual. And then we're just going to say response.logout, and then response.status 200.send, and then successfully logged out. So we're logged out here now. Let's go ahead and finish that up. And we've got one more route I'm going to put in here. And it's just going to be /me. It's got a request and response, fat arrow again. And we're just going to say response.status 200.json. And then we're just going to send back the request.user. And this call right here is just a way to get back just some information about the user that's logged in. But you have to have the user's token in order to get to this. And that pretty much does it, unless I have made a typo somewhere. So, there's only one way to know for sure, I guess. Is we can go ahead and run it and see if it crashes on us, and it did. And I've got a problem here right about where I thought it was, I think. Right here. See if that fixed it. No. Hang on just a second. Let me find out what I did wrong here. I don't even know why I've got this in here. We don't need that at all, because we wrap things up on this line right here. So that's why it complained to us. Now let me go ahead and save it. Let's see if it's running now. No. So it's complaining about our model, I do believe. And that would be probably because I don't have a comma right there. So let me save that. I'll tell you what, working with JavaScript really makes you appreciate Xcode. Because, I mean, there's clues like this, but boy, Xcode will let you know right off the bat, hey, you messed up here. Okay, so we got that done. Now then, it's running, but is it working? That's a good question. Well, let's pull up Postman and we will just try to figure that out. So, the first thing we can do is register. And the way we register is we pass in a JSON body here. And if you're watching this, this is just local and it's just a dev machine. Never, ever, ever pass clear text passwords and usernames over HTTP. Always set up a secure, it costs more because you have to buy a server certificate and things like that. Always set up SSL so that you can encrypt your traffic. But anyway, for our purposes, we're going to go ahead and use this. And we're going to pass in email. And that's just going to be jack@devslopes.com. Actually, that has to be double quotes. And then I'm going to pass in password. And I'm just going to pass in Fluffy Knuckles. That's my real password. You can go try that out. Alright, so let's see if I've got any typos. Alright, missing password error. No password was given. Let me investigate. Okay, I'm back. I figured out the problem. I did a little rearranging of the code here in this accounts controller. It's not necessary. It should work just fine the way I had it before. I just moved this block around right here. But the problem was in our account model. And if you'll remember, I had the type string and required true here. Well, it caused a problem because over here in our index, you see we've got this username field and password field. Well, the way Passport maps things, apparently, when we made the email required and the password required, when it maps email to username, it was causing a problem there. Anyway, so I just had to take required out of here. Passport will make it required anyway, so it's not a big issue. But we're running. And so now let's pull up Postman. And we've got the same request in here. This is our V1 account register. It's post, and we're passing in email and password. Now if I hit send, we'll get just a little bit of a pause, and then we'll get successfully created new account. To verify this, we can pull up RoboMongo, and we can go into our food truck API database and look in collections, and now we have an accounts collection. And if I look inside there, we've got one object, and it's got an object ID here. It's got a salted and hashed password here, a real long one. And it has my email address or my username. So register's working, so we can register new users now. So let's go ahead and continue on. So we've got register. Now we need to log in, and this is the trick. This is where I'm going to show you how this works. So we can, let's see, I believe this is this is also post. And we've got to pass in our username and password. So this is post. And this is our login route. And in our body, we're going to pass in JSON again. It's basically the same JSON we've got here. So I'm just going to copy that, and then we'll come back over here and paste it. And now then, when I hit this, if everything goes okay, which it did, we get back a user, which is jack@devslopes.com, and we get back a token. And now if you're using iOS or something, you may want to store this token in NSUser defaults or something. But we'll have to have this to access any routes that we lock down. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to leave this tab open here so I don't lose it. But now then, just for instance, we can get this me, and this is just kind of a test route. So in Postman here, I'm going to pull up a new tab. So it's just v1 account me. And that is a GET request. So we're good there. And what we need to do, the way we use this token, is we set an authorization header. So right here, we need to set a new header. It's going to be authorization. And for the value, we have to type bearer and then a space. And then we've got to paste in that big long token that we got. It's a great big long token. And that's our JSON web token. And now if I hit send, you see we get back an ID, an expiration. I can't remember what IAT is right now. That may be when it was created. But anyway, we get back some information about our account. Now the cool thing is, if we leave that bearer token out of there and hit send, we get unauthorized error. No authorization token was found. So this is really cool stuff. So we can lock down anything in our API now. And a matter of fact, we're going to do just that. So we're going to go back to our food truck controller. And in our food truck controller, we could come up here to the top and we could just say import, and we're just going to import authenticate from, and then we need to pull that in from our middleware and our auth middleware. Now we can stick this authenticate in any one of these calls. So you may want to let anybody have access to read, and you may just want to lock down posts to authenticated users only. And the way we can do that is like right here, we've got this post method to add a new food truck. So right here in between our path and our function here, all we've got to do is just paste in or type in authenticate and add a comma. And that's it. We save that. And then make sure Node is running again. And unless I've got another issue. Now, if we try to post to that URL, boy. All right, it's v1 food truck add. And then we're going to put in our body here. And it's going to be JSON. And I can't remember what all we got to have for a food truck. We're going to have to go look. So we need a name, a food type, an average cost, and a geometry coordinates. So we've got name. And we'll just call this Dev Slopes Diner. We've got a food type, and we'll just say American. All right, what else we got? Average cost and geometry. So average cost, we'll just say $12.99, and then geometry. And here we need to pass in our coordinates. And I don't know, we'll just say 20 and 40. It really doesn't matter, it's just a number. All right. So we've got our geometry, average cost, food type, and name. So let's try to post this. Now keep in mind, we don't have an authorization bearer token in here. And we added that right here. So let's just see what we get. If I hit send, voila, we get unauthorized error, no authorization token was found. Now, if we come in here in our headers and we add authorization and we put our bearer token in here, don't forget you've got to type the word bearer with a capital B and then a space and then paste your token in. Now, I'm going to grab this over here and move it up because we want it to be first. Now I'm going to send, and voila, food truck saved successfully. If we pull up RoboMongo and refresh, you see now we've got DevSlopes Diner, all thanks to our authorization token. Now then, at this point, that's the only route that we've locked down. So let's see if we can still read the food trucks. And we in fact can. So now we just pulled up, we've only got 2 in there right now. We pulled them both up. The magic of this is that all we've got to do is come right in here and put authenticate and add a comma, save it. And now that very same request that I just ran, boom, no authorization token found. Again, authorization header, bearer, authorization token, send, and now we're back in. Pretty cool stuff, pretty cool stuff. This is what it's all about. So that pretty much wraps up authentication. There's a lot more you can do with Passport. Like I said, it's got strategies for Facebook, Google, GitHub, just any and every sign-in that you can think of. And there's lots of documentation out there on it. This little Passport Local tutorial here will get you started in the right direction, and you'll see how to use it anyway. A lot of the other ones, are even easier. Passport makes it very easy to do authentication. So anyway, that wraps up our API and our authentication section, and we're going to deploy to DigitalOcean in our next section, and then we'll wrap things up. So be sure to jump over there and join me when we deploy to DigitalOcean, and I'll see you next time.